From Washington, D.C., I'm Allister. This is Washington Watch, a weekly roundup of the biggest stories from the United States and beyond. The headlines.
With a high degree of certainty, we have him
Right
in custody. Okay? In custody. Everyone did a great job.
A 22-year-old is in custody for shooting a close ally of President Trump. The suspect, Tyler Robinson, is reported to have made statements to relatives suggesting he was behind the assassination of right-wing activist Charlie Kirk. Officials thank Robinson's family for helping turn him in and say he was near Utah Valley University hours before the attack on Wednesday. The Utah governor has said prosecutors would pursue the death penalty once a suspect was caught. U.S. Ambassador designate to India Sergio Gore says he sees an India-U.S. trade deal coming soon. Gore says talks could wrap up within weeks with the nitty-gritties being discussed. He says Trump has invited India's commerce and trade ministers to visit D.C. next week as part of a meeting with Washington's trade representative.
The tariffs are illegal. I think the Supreme Court should do the right thing and strike them down.
In an exclusive interview to NDTV, Indian-American Congressman Suhas Subramanyam is standing up for India. Subramanyam, who is a Democrat, says Trump's tariffs are illegal. He says the U.S. needs to be a good faith partner to India. And in a new book, Kamala Harris now says Democrats made a mistake by not challenging President Biden's re-election bid last year. The former vice president calls it reckless to have left the decision to what she describes as Biden's ego. However, Harris says she was in the worst position to make the case that Biden should drop out. Our top story, a suspect has been arrested in the fatal shooting of Charlie Kirk after the right-wing activist was killed 2 days ago. Law enforcement officials say 22-year-old Tyler Robinson is in custody. They say extensive evidence such as remarks to relatives, social media messages, along with physical proof link the suspect to the shooting. Officials say Robinson left unfired rounds with engravings on them, including one that read, "Hey fascist, catch." Now, those unfired bullets were found with the gun believed to have been used in the shooting. Utah's governor says video from Utah Valley University shows Tyler Robinson arriving near campus in a Dodge Challenger Wednesday morning, roughly 4 hours before the attack. Officials thanked the family of the suspect, whom they say were involved in turning him in. Tyler is said to have become increasingly political in recent years and did not like Charlie Kirk. Now, on Thursday, in reaction to the killing of Kirk, U.S. President Trump told reporters, "We have to beat the hell out of radical left lunatics." While many politicians have broadly condemned the violence, many on the right are blaming the left for what happened. Now, in an exclusive interview with NDTV, we asked Democrat Congressman Suhas Subramanyam what he thinks about the blame game in an increasingly divided America. Congressman Subramanyam, the criticism against you, against the Democrats, is that you need to bring down that rhetoric and bring down the political temperature.
I think both sides need to bring down the rhetoric. And so it's not like this is only happening to Republicans. And so certainly I agree. I've been saying for many years now, ever since I worked in politics, that the rhetoric is too heated. But it's happening on both sides. Let's not pretend like Republicans have never had heated rhetoric. Things like we have a war, we need to come and invade different cities, blue cities, or there's a war against the Democrats, or there's a civil war coming, and we better be ready, right? And so I think that both sides need to understand that we're not going to agree on some things, right? But still try to find ways to work together, still try to find opportunities to at least see the humanity in each other. I think that's critical. And I think using the death of one person should not be an excuse to say that we should heat up the rhetoric. I think when you say that it's the fault of the other side that someone was assassinated, I think that only makes the rhetoric worse, honestly.
And we'll have more of our exclusive interview with Congressman Suhas Subramanyam here on Washington Watch. That's coming up. But first, let's get you more on this story on Charlie Kirk. We're joined by an eyewitness who was at the event where Kirk was shot. Michael Majorano was standing in line to meet and debate with Kirk. Michael now joins us from Logan, Utah. Michael, thank you for your time here on Washington Watch. Can you tell me exactly what happened? How far away were you from Charlie Kirk when he was shot?
Yeah, as many of your viewers know, Mr. Charlie Kirk is a conservative activist and political figure, and he has a segment where he goes to college campuses and tables and sets up a table and kind of challenges college students or really whoever is willing to come and debate him on a political, theological, or social topic. And so I was, I wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to dialogue with a generally well-respected political commentator. And I was there to disagree with Charlie, actually. And I had gotten there at about 10 a.m. and I had a good question. And so I was expedited to the front of the line, and I was probably 5 or 10 people back in line getting ready to ask him a question. And I would say I was probably 10 or 15 feet away from the table where Mr. Charlie Kirk was set up. So, really only a few steps away.
Right, Michael, then what happened?
There was someone asked the first question and he answered it well. It was just kind of like a warm up. There were probably 3,500 people there. So a very good turnout for a small venue. And then the second person went to ask a question and he fielded a question about gun violence, ironically. And then about halfway through that question, there was a gunshot. And my initial impression was, oh, wow, this is a cruel joke that someone is playing to try and disrupt and ruin this event. And then probably about 5 seconds later, I realized that it indeed wasn't a joke, and then started anticipating a second shot, which fortunately never came. But at that point, it was pandemonium on the venue.
Can't imagine how terrifying that would have been. Michael, did you have any sight of Charlie Kirk when that bullet struck?
Yeah, I mean, I saw him fall back in his chair. That's all I really remember. I saw him fall back, and then he was on the ground, and I wasn't sure if it had hit him. I think he was wearing a bulletproof vest, but I didn't see where it hit him or if it hit him. But I was, looking at him just momentarily before, and then once he fell back in the chair, I couldn't really see him. He was behind the table, and then we were all, we didn't know what would happen. I think everyone was thankfully, I was relieved when I found out that it was a targeted shooting and not a mass shooting, because I was waiting for bullets to fly.
Thank you very much, Michael. Appreciate your time here in narrating what is really a very difficult story for you to tell. In other news now, an India-US trade deal may be closed. That's according to Sergio Gore, President Trump's nominee for ambassador to India, at a confirmation hearing before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Gore told lawmakers that the two sides are not far apart and things could be wrapped up in the coming weeks. If confirmed, 38-year-old Gore is said to be the youngest ever ambassador to New Delhi. Gore also vowed to press India to end Russian oil imports while pointing to Trump's close friendship with Prime Minister Modi as a strength in the relationship.
We're actively negotiating with the Indians right now. In fact, the president has invited their commerce and their trade ministers to come visit us next week, and they'll be meeting with Ambassador Greer here in Washington. Part of that will include a hopeful deal. We're not that far apart right now on a deal. In fact, they're negotiating the nitty-gritty of a deal.
So is the Trump administration really ready to make a deal with India? We've heard that all too often before, only to be disappointed. I sat down with Indian-American Congressman Suhas Subramanyam to find out. Congressman Subramanyam is a Democrat from Virginia. There's optimism now that a trade deal can be finalized, but the fact of the matter remains that Trump has used India as an example before the Supreme Court to fight for that legality of his tariffs. If he makes that trade deal with India, wouldn't that jeopardize or undermine his case before the Supreme Court? So should we be as optimistic as some people are?
Trump is unpredictable, and in the world of trade, that it's extremely dangerous and it's bad for business and it's bad for economic ties as well. And certainly India should be one of our top allies around the world. And the problem that we're having now is that, but I'm not seeing a lot of Republicans stand up to Trump when it comes to having a good trade relationship with India. So to answer your question, I don't know, really, and no one knows. And the only way we will know is if we can have predictable policies from this administration. We're not getting it right now.
Do you see a thaw in relations? Do you feel more optimistic now than you did last week?
I don't know, because with friends like Trump, who needs enemies, right? And so, we've built this relationship up over several administrations now. It's come a long way in the past 20 years. And I was in the Obama White House. We had a fantastic bilateral meeting with Modi. And even the first Trump administration at times said that we're going to prioritize this relationship. But it looks like they've unraveled all of it. And for what? Is so Trump can be the world bully on the world stage. And the reasoning behind the tariffs, with India's buying Russian oil, Europe is buying just as much, if not more, Russian oil.
Talking about that double speak, on Tuesday, Trump reportedly got on a call with European officials. And on that call, he demanded that Europe slap 100% tariffs on China and India for buying cheap Russian oil. So in some ways a doublespeak, because then hours later on Tuesday evening, he softened his stance on India. So what do you make of this? And is Trump now trying to get the EU to do his bidding against India?
Again, I think the tariffs are illegal. I think the Supreme Court should do the right thing and strike them down. If we want to have a good trade relationship with India, Europe, anywhere around the world, we have to be a good standing party. We have to be a good faith partner. And that means simply, asking these countries what we want, right? Telling them what we actually want from the relationship. And I think this administration sometimes doesn't even know what they want. They just want leverage, or create this illusion of leverage, and then create this illusion that we got something out of some deal. And so it's very much like Trump to create a problem and then solve it, right? So that he can say he solved the problem. That's what he's doing right now, except this is a harder problem to solve long term.
You come from a constituency with several Indians, with many of them running businesses. What are they telling you? Have they begun to see the impact of the tariffs?
Well, the ones who voted against Trump are saying, I told you so. They're saying to their friends, like, well, this is what happens when you elect someone as unpredictable and dangerous as Donald Trump. And the ones who voted for him have been quiet, I'll be honest. And sometimes I ask them about whether they regret their vote, and they're not there yet as far as admitting that they regret their vote. But they are very, very concerned about the tariffs. A few of them have justified it, saying, this is just part of the game, and it'll all die down, and we'll all get used to it. But I think if you're being honest with yourself, you should be regretting that vote for Donald Trump if you're an Indian American in Virginia, and certainly a lot of people in Virginia who voted for Trump should be regretting that vote.
In other news now, a 47-second cell phone video from a Dallas suburb has spiraled into a national flashpoint. A Texas man posted it with an anti-immigrant message about his Indian neighbors. What started as a festival celebration is now stoking a fiery debate. The video shows neighbors celebrating outdoors with traditional Indian drums and dancing, but the clip went viral because of the man behind the camera. Texas resident Daniel Keeney captioned it saying, "Typical view outside Dallas. We should cancel H-1Bs. I want my kids to grow up in America, not India." Keeney complained his neighborhood was overrun by Indians, describing evening walks as like strolling through Mumbai. Within hours, the post raked up millions of views, eventually forcing Keeney to delete the original post. Now, some applauded Keeney, warning even that legal immigrants should be repatriated, while others pushed back, calling his remarks racist. North Texas has seen a surge of South Asian families in the past decade, many highly skilled workers on visas. Sikh truck drivers in the U.S. are facing a major backlash after a horrific accident of a fellow trucker on a Florida highway. What began as one man's wrong turn has turned into a wave, really, of suspicion, hostility, and hate. Nearly 1 in 5 truckers in the United States is Sikh. They are the backbone of America's supply chain, yet today many say that they feel like outsiders in the very country they help keep moving. My colleague Rhythm Arcadia reports.
On August 12th, Sikh truck driver Harjinder Singh made a wrong U-turn on Florida's turnpike. 3 lives were lost that day. It was a single mistake, but the consequences have spread far beyond the highway.
So a large population of the truck community is Sikh truckers. And so when an accident like this occurs, it doesn't affect just one family, it affects the entire community.
In Riverside, California, members of the Sikh community say they feel under siege. What began as a tragic accident has now spiraled into a storm of hate.
Our work is guided by the Sikh principle of seva, which is selfless service and standing up for those vulnerable communities.
Instead of mourning alongside the victims' families, Sikh truckers across America say they've been met with suspicion, hostility, and slurs. Nearly 1 in 5 truck drivers in the U.S. is Sikh. They are the people who move America's goods while holding on to their faith and tradition. But today, many of them say they feel like targets.
A lot of people are throwing hate for no reason at the community just because we wear the turban.
Harjinder Singh now faces charges of manslaughter and vehicular homicide. Florida's governor has called him a thug. The Trump administration insists he failed an English test and should never have been licensed. But a body cam video shows him speaking English clearly during a traffic stop.
This is my ticket and my license. How many years?
For America's Sikh truckers, one man's mistake has become far more than a legal case. It's become a test of justice and belonging, and a painful reminder of how quickly tragedy can be twisted into hate. With Rhythm Arcadia, Bureau Report, NDTV World.
A brutal killing on a North Carolina train has grabbed national and international headlines. A young Ukrainian refugee, just 19 days in America, was stabbed to death in front of passengers. Now U.S. President Donald Trump is blaming Democrats, while critics accuse him of exploiting grief for politics.
19 days after fleeing the Ukraine war, 27-year-old Irina Zarutska had just boarded the late-night Blue Line train in Charlotte, North Carolina, when the nightmare unfolded. She sat quietly until the man behind her rose and plunged a switchblade into her neck and chest, again and again. At the next stop, he fled. Moments later, Zarutska collapsed on the carriage floor. Strangers rushed to help, but the wounds were too deep. She died before medics arrived. Her killer, 34-year-old DeCarlos Brown Jr., with schizophrenia and a criminal record stretching back more than a decade.
This is a picture of the woman, a beautiful young girl that never had problems in life, with a magnificent future in this country. And now she's dead. She was slaughtered by a deranged monster who was roaming free after 14 prior arrests.
President Donald Trump seized on the tragedy. In a fiery post, he blamed Democrats for Zarutska's death, saying her blood was on their hands because career criminals walk free on cashless bail.
For far too long, Americans have been forced to put up with Democrat-run cities that set loose savage, bloodthirsty criminals to prey on innocent people. 24 of the top 25 most dangerous cities in America are run by Democrat mayors.
Trump singled out former Democratic Governor Roy Cooper, now running for Senate, accusing him of being soft on crime. Republicans say Cooper's policies put violent offenders like Brown back on the streets. 5 years after George Floyd's death and the rise of Black Lives Matter, critics ask if America is now slipping into reverse politics. Was Irina Zarutska, a refugee fleeing bombs in Ukraine, ironically safer in a war zone than on the streets of America? For Irina Zarutska's loved ones, the noise of American politics overshadows their grief. She was an art graduate from Kiev, learning English to become a veterinary assistant. A life of promise cut short by senseless violence. Rhythm Arcadia's report for NDTV World.
And you can catch updates on that story and all our other stories on NDTV's YouTube channel. Now, in other news, in communities across the US, groups of Indians are carving out time from their busy lives to learn Sanskrit. From weekend classes to 10-day crash courses, these Desis say Sanskrit is more than just a language, it's a way to connect with their heritage and culture. NDTV visited one such class in Maryland.
Shankarasya patni par Shankarasya kasyaha patihi Ramakrishnah Sharadayaha patihi. A volunteer teacher for Sanskrit Bharati have been helping folks to learn conversational Sanskrit. I mean, we get students in all age bands. Sometimes many of our peoples offer their homes, or we meet at some common places like temple, where we conduct this classic Sanskrit Bharati workshop, which is for about 10 consecutive days, 20 hours. Kasyaha lekani? Shri Vidyayaha lekani. Kasya nama Srinivasaha? Tasya nama Srinivasa. We make it very fun, very interactive in the way we teach. As against handing someone a grammar book, overwhelming them with all the grammar rules and then somehow suppressing their natural instinct to learn a language.
Okay, so the teacher is going to test two of his top students here.
Yes. Etat kim?
Etat phalam.
Uttamam. Bhagini, etat kim?
Etat pushpam.
Esha ka?
Esha lekhani.
Ankani.
Oh, one wrong.
Esha Ankani. Esha ka? Churika. It's like how a child learns, right? First it starts identifying itself with words, but then eventually starts constructing good, fully formed sentences. It's an immersion method as against learning a language through textbooks. Dantakurchaha. Eshaha Dantakurchaha. Kandukam. Etat Kandukam. There has been a perspective that's built that learning Sanskritam is very difficult. Only challenge, if I have to pick, is to overcome that perspective. wanted to learn the Sanskrit as a conversational language so that I would understand any of the Kalidasa poems or any Valmiki poems that are written.
Me and my family being 10,000 miles away from where I grew up, it kind of brings back those memories of a language that is close to my mother tongue.
People who are taking the classes along with us are coming from India but from other states. So having that common bridge between all of us, Sanskrit being the common language between so many of our other states, it does unite us all in a foreign country.
When we bring them Sanskritam and then see that smile on their face is what motivates us further. Sahaka, Saha, Pravina, Tasya Putra Ramaha, Tasya Putra Ramaha.
That's it for me on Washington Watch. Thanks for watching. I'm Allister Desis.